Hey, welcome back. Retention policies in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center are the best way to meet compliance regulations that require an organization to preserve or delete content across Microsoft 365. My name is Sushant Sutish, and I'm your trainer for this Microsoft 365 Certified Security Administrator Associate Certification course. After this lesson, you should be able to explain how a retention policy works, create a retention policy, and manage retention policy settings. So, without wasting any more time, let's get into it. So, when you include a location such as a site or mailbox in a retention policy, the content remains in its original location. People can continue to work with their documents or mail as if nothing has changed. But if they edit or delete content that's included in the policy, a copy of the content as it existed when you applied the policy is retained. Let's talk about the content in OneDrive accounts and SharePoint sites. When you include a SharePoint site or OneDrive account in a retention policy, a preservation hold library is created if one doesn't already exist. Most users can't view the preservation hold library because it's visible only to site collection administrators. And what about the content in mailboxes and public folders? For users' mail, calendar, and other items, a retention policy is applied at the level of a mailbox. For a public folder, a retention policy is applied at the folder level, not the mailbox level. Both a mailbox and a public folder use the recoverable items folder to retain items. Only people whom have assigned e-discovery permission can view items in others' users' recoverable items folder. So how is the retention labels work with the retention label policies? Making retention labels available to people in your organization so that they can classify content is a two-step process. First, you create the retention labels and then you publish them to the locations you choose. When you publish the retention labels, a retention label policy gets created. And retention labels are independent, reusable building blocks that are included in one or more retention label policies. The primary purpose of a retention label policy is to group a set of retention labels and specify the locations where you want those labels to appear. So how do you create a retention policy? You can create a retention policy in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. And within the Compliance Center, you can go to Policies, Data, and select Retention. This is where you get to choose the name of the policy. And when you click Next, you come to this page of settings. This is where you can have options to add how long you want to retain the content. What do you want to do after the content is older than a specific date? And you can view some additional advanced settings as well. And advanced settings will give you options like detect content that contains a specific word or phrases, or detect content that contains sensitive information as well. Additionally, you can create this retention policy with PowerShell as well. So how can you manage the retention? So once you create the retention policy, so there are certain management tasks you can do. You can add location expiration to a policy, you can lock a retention policy, or you can delete a policy as well. Let's talk about event-driven retention. When you retain content, the retention period is often based on the age of the content. For example, you might retain documents for 7 years after they are created and then delete them. But with labels in Office 365, you can also base a retention period on which a specific type of event occurs. The event triggers the start of the retention period, and all content with the label applied for that type of event get the label's retention actions enforced on them. For example, you can use labels with event-driven retention for employees leaving the organization, contract expiration, or product lifeline. That concludes the lesson on retention labels. In the next video, we're going to learn about archiving and retention in Exchange. So I will see you on the next one. Till then, take care.